Hi everyone, Jen Holt here at Inspired by Purpose to bring you your pose of the day. Today's pose is called Setu Bandhasana or bridge pose. It's a back bend, so we work on strengthening the back body, building more flexibility in the spine. We also work on opening the front of the body. So it's a nice opening for the chest and the shoulders. We get a stretch through the abdominals. We stretch the quad on the front of the thigh, and we get into the hip flexors. So there's lots of variations and ways that you can modify the pose. I'll start by showing you the basic sort of pose, and then we'll move into some different ways that you can modify and play with it a little bit more. So we're going to start by bringing our back all the way down onto the mat. The knees stay bent, knees are pointed up, and my soles of the feet are on the mat. You might start by checking in with the pelvis. Think about allowing the pelvis to be neutral here, so we don't want to be lifted up so the points of the top of the pelvis is pointed up and the tailbone is down. We also don't want to be rounding the back, so we want to try to keep the hips and the pelvis pretty neutral. That's going to help when you lift up into it. Traditionally, arms would be by your side, palms down. So that's where we'll start. Think about pressing the shoulders down onto the mat. So already we're getting a little chest opening here. Then we're going to push down through the feet and start to lift the hips up off the mat. So think about taking the knees out, pinning the shoulders down, taking the tailbone through the legs. You want to make sure that the legs aren't splaying out, and you don't want to move your head around too much. You want to try to keep the gaze straight up at the ceiling. That's going to protect the neck. The other thing here is that the chest is coming to the chin. We're not bringing the chin to the chest. Think about lengthening through the top of the head, pushing out through the heels, lifting the hips. Now, a few variations that you can try. So with the arms, you can have the arms just as we had them, planted down beside you. That's a great way to go, and doing so helps to open up the chest and the shoulders. But if you've got stuff going on with the arms today and you'd rather allow the palms to face up and relax a little bit more through the arms, that's okay. Just make sure the shoulders stay pinned down and you can still lift up into your bridge pose. You can also focus a little bit more on that opening through the chest and the shoulders. If you bring the elbows in pretty close, point the fingers up, and then push the floor away with the elbows, really lifting the chest up to the chin. If you're ready for a deeper variation of the pose, you can try interlacing the hands beneath you. So once the hips lift, then we take the hands together, interlacing, reaching the knuckles closer toward the heels, pushing the floor away with the shoulders. So a little bit more chest and shoulder opening here. You could also, if you're looking to deepen, you can work on bringing the heels in a little bit closer to the body, and you might even be able to hold on to the ankles here and then lift up. So this is a considerably bigger back bend. Bringing the knees together, making sure they're not splaying out. You can also use your block here if you're having trouble getting the weight even on the soles of the feet and you find that the knees are splaying out. You can try taking a block between the thighs and squeeze the block together as you rise. Now, another thing to watch here, if you feel the knees are splaying out, make sure you're not overly engaging the glutes. So we need a little bit of glute engagement to lift up, but sometimes when we overly fire these up, then we're really pushing out through here and we lose some of the engagement through the feet. We want to make sure all four corners of the feet are rooted down, knees are lifted, pointed straight up, they're not splaying out. Lift up. Now, if you were looking for a more restorative variation, you could take a block, lift your hips, and place it beneath. So if you're placing a block underneath your hips, you want the block to land underneath your sacrum. It's a sort of triangle shaped bone just above the tailbone at the base of the spine. So you'll know when the block lands there because it'll feel pretty comfortable. It's a kind of flat place for the block to land. You might start with the block on its sort of lowest level here. If you're ready for more, you could lift it up, or you could even take it up to the highest level if you really wanted to work on your back bends today. You could also, I'm going to take this down a level. You could also play with, if you're using your block and looking for a little bit more of a restorative variation, you can play with drawing a knee in. You could play with extending a leg out, or both knees in and both legs out. Or you could take your feet up for a little bit more of an inversion. You could also do a little bit more hip opening in this pose, either with the block in our restorative variation or without the block. And we do that by getting the hips up in any way that you're getting them up, and then taking opposite ankle to opposite knee, pressing the knee open, lifting the hips. What you want to watch for here is that the weight doesn't shift over to that leg. We're lifting straight up, not over. So think about really rooting down through opposite arm, opposite foot will help you lift straight up rather than finding a little tilt over to the side. Make sure if you're doing one of those one-sided poses that you get in both sides. And after this pose, because it is a back bend, you might take some time to draw the knees into the chest. That's just gonna help reset your spine. It should feel pretty good afterward. So that's our pose for the day. It's called, again, bridge pose. If you have any questions, comments, please leave them below. I'm happy to look at those. I hope to see you here in center or online very soon. Thanks so much for joining today.